This is Majinoni, and here's my review for The Amazing Spider-Man 641 for One Moment in Time. This is the final issue of this wonderful storyline that Marvel's taken us on. Now, before I go into it, there's going to be some spoilers, so if you haven't read the book, come back later. My initial view of the comic is the art kind of goes from a good, bad perspective. Sometimes it's really good. Sometimes Mary Jane just looks fugly. I can't really describe it other than she just doesn't look right. I think the cover's great. The story, though, I think it's lacking somewhere. I can see the logic behind the thought process to get it to the final resolution. But when I saw the ending, it was kind of like a letdown. But the one thing I'm going to say that is positive about the letdown is this issue actually sets Peter free. Surprisingly, all the baggage that is with the relationship between Mary Jane and Peter Parker is gone. And I don't mean that in a negative way, because, I think the Mary Jane Peter Parker story is very crucial to this book, but now it's gone in the sense that we can now get fresh stories. Peter can move on, and in the future, if somebody else decides to pick up the storyline and bring them back together again, I'm sure that door is also open because to be honest with you, 5 years from now they'll either retcon this or it never happened. So. I'm really torn with this. I can tell you this much. I am not buying a trade of this. That's for sure. So let's get on with the story, shall we? See, now this is where I was saying we get some ugly-looking Mary Jane. I like the layouts and things like that, but I just don't. I think she looks really ugly there. It kind of looks like what they did was they squinched her face down because they didn't have enough room there. Anyway, so if you remember last time you had Doctor Strange and company, what they want to do is they want to basically mind wipe everybody so nobody remembers Peter's Spider-Man. Well, Tony doesn't want any part of that, but then Doctor Strange basically comes out and says, well, look, we need to make this right. We jacked up Peter, and just because he lost faith in you, that doesn't mean, you should turn your back on him. And so that kind of brings Tony back into the fold. And they're also talking about, they did it before with Sentry, so there's a danger of doing something like that, like what happened to Sentry. Now, eventually what happens is they decide, originally Doctor Strange was the keeper of that knowledge, but what they decided to do this time is they're going to make Peter be the only person who remembers everything that happened. And, Peter being Peter makes a bad move, and basically as long as he's within the sphere, he's protected. But he decides, well, you know what, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to bring Mary Jane in the sphere so that way she remembers too. And I'm thinking right at this moment, this is the defining moment of fail. And the reason why I'm saying that is this. You have Mary Jane who saw, that Peter was Spider-Man, and she kept that a secret. And she had no baggage along with that. It was her little secret. Then it became public, and then she saw what happens, to people close to Peter when his secret identity became public. And it's kind of like, this was his opportunity to give her a fresh start. That way she wouldn't have any baggage. She wouldn't have remembered, Aunt May getting shot. She wouldn't remember anything about her aunt getting attacked. She wouldn't have remembered, her life being in danger. All of that would have been gone. And that's why I'm saying Peter was being kind of selfish. But he didn't want to be the only one. So, anyways, the next day, she wakes up and, he mentions that to her, and then now you can see her face. She's kind of traumatized by that. And So we go back to the future here, or not? So not the future, but we go back to the next day where all this stuff is going on. Now, this is where again I'm saying I think there's some good art, but there's bad art all over the place. Like I love the lights, the darks, the shadows, things like that. But like when you look at Peter here, it's ugly, and here it's the same thing. And this is where Mary Jane's talking to Peter. She wants the truth about wants the truth in talking about what happened, and you can tell she's really definitely tore up about this thing. And then here she mentions that she sees what happens when people know, and she would rather not have known. Well, the phone's ringing, and so they decide basically to say their, I guess you can say the final farewell type thing. So Peter goes back to the the hospital, and Mary Jane basically gets in the cab and gets out of town. Well, Mary Jane basically, this is where she finally, I guess you could say this is the time that she's took to heal and finally be able to come to grips with everything. And she realizes now that she really can't be with Peter. And she gives Peter a goodbye kiss, and she frees him. Says, she says, you're going to be okay. We're both gonna be okay. So you need to get out. And she was like, there's nobody. I'm not strong enough for you. You need somebody who's stronger, and you need to grab that person. When they're in front of you, and you can't have me holding that back. And so that's what I'm saying is I think that eventually this could come full circle again, because all you have to do is just write Mary Jane stronger. All it takes is just one storyline where Mary Jane gets a backbone and she's back. She can get back together with Peter. And this is where it starts fresh with a brand new day. We also get another little short here, but that's besides the point. Overall, I don't want to say I'm happy with this, because I really feel that ultimately, in order to write good stories, they've really gypped fans of something that they held special, and because of that, I still hold a certain degree of anger towards Marvel for that. But I will say, at least the past recently, there have been some really good stories. I just wish that they didn't have to retcon everything and make everything a dream and stuff like that, and come up with this convoluted storyline to fix everything. And if you really think about it, well, Mephisto didn't jack with Peter. He ultimately jacked their relationship up completely, so that way they're not together any longer. Overall, like I said, I'm iffy on it. I think it came to a logical conclusion for what it is, but I don't think it's. I think it's going to leave a lot of fans wanting. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave it on the side. Rate the video. Let me know what you guys think. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll have more reviews up later.